shaking now, now, get 'em up downtown. Get your rocks off, get your rocks off, honey. Shaking now, now, get 'em up downtown. Get your rocks off, get your rocks off, honey. Shaking now, now, get 'em up downtown. Get your rocks off, get your rocks off.
Hello everybody and welcome to tonight's LUF Lounge. We've got a good lineup for you and we're going to do a round of introductions. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then we'll come back to it. They'll give you a brief summary about who they are, where they're from and what they're going to talk about. So I'm Glen Island. I work for Red Roads Recovery and I'm part of the Liaison and Diversion team in Preston. Emily, do you want to come in?
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm an engagement worker and I work part-time for Red Rose Recovery and I'm going to be doing the comments tonight. So, hello.
Craig?
Evening all, my name's Craig Sulman. I'm from the Liaison and Diversion team based at Preston Magistrates Court.
Mike? You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry. I'm Mark. I'm a Blackpool Hep C community worker, and I'm going to talk about what we're putting in place in Blackpool to help towards eradicating Hep C.
Thank you, Mark. Jenna?
Hiya, I'm Jenna. I work for Red Rose Recovery, working with the Liaison and Diversion team in the East, which is Blackburn and Burnley. And I'm going to be doing my life story tonight.
Thank you, Jenna. Annie?
Hi everyone, my name's Annie. I'm a peer support worker in Blackpool, working alongside Liaison and Diversion, and I'll be talking about that role and how I found it, because I'm new to the role.
Thank you, Annie. Daniel?
Hello everybody, my name's Danny. I've recently been employed as the peer support worker in Burnley and Blackburn, working for Red Roads Recovery alongside the Liaison and Diversion team. I'm going to be giving you a bit about my background and a bit about my new role.
Thank you, Danny. And David? You're on mute, David.
Is that better, Glenn?
That's better.
Brilliant. My name's Dave Jones. I work for the Liaison and Diversion team. I'm one of the practitioners based in police custody, normally at Blackburn or Burnley. And it's my first time on the live lounge, if that's what it's called. And nice to meet you all. Thank you.
So, firstly, before we hand it over to Craig's going to tell you a bit about Liaison and Diversion and a bit about what we do within that. But firstly, what I want to do is get this message out to as many people as we can. So firstly, can I ask everybody that's on this stream to like and share and get it out to as many groups as possible, because the further we can spread this word about people are in recovery, and when I say recovery, that can be drug and alcohol, mental health, domestic violence, and Craig will obviously touch on this a bit, and that's what the Liaison and Diversion is. It's an all vulnerability service, so it doesn't, like I said, addiction doesn't discriminate against anybody. So like and share, and if you want to go to our website, which is www.redroserecovery.org.uk, and what you can do is you can find out what we've got on across all Lancashire. So no further ado, I'll hand you over to Craig. You want to go, Craig, mate?
Thanks, Glenn.
No problem.
Okay, so my name's Craig Tolman and I work for the Liaison and Diversion team in Preston. We work in custody and we work in the Magistrates Court. We also offer a service in the Crown Courts. We're a team not specifically mental health workers. We come from all varieties of backgrounds. And our role is to meet with service users whilst they're in the detention of the criminal justice system, be that in the police station or the Magistrates Court. And our role is to identify, as Glenn says, any unmet need or vulnerability, and then refer them people on to appropriate services. So we're not necessarily an intervention, although a lot of our service users would probably identify us as that. Our main remit is to signpost and promote that person's engagement with services. So that's a little bit of an idea of the outline of the service. There's a lot more in there. But I think what it touches on is the actual new model of the service, the fact that we're not specifically of one profession, if you will. We're not all mental health nurses. We all come from a variety of different backgrounds. And we've been very fortunate in our management structure that they've trusted individuals that aren't necessarily nurses and aren't necessarily social workers. And they're taking on board our lived work-life experience and what we've achieved in our work before Liaison Diversion started. And in a sense, that kind of opened the door, I think, or made a natural progression for us to be really encouraging and promoting people with lived experience. And that's where the peer worker role began developing, I assume, because it started happening a long time before I knew about it. When it first came in, which I can't even tell you how long ago it was, Glenn. I'm thinking around 15 months ago. I think it started January 2020, didn't it, when you first started coming into custody?
Yeah, it was January. Yeah, definitely.
And we had Lisa, Scott, and Louise who came to join us. And you know, there was I've worked in services in the past where we've had volunteers, and we've had peer workers, people with lived experience that came into the environments I was working in. And I'm going to be honest, it didn't work. It generally kind of failed. And that left some residual doubts in me about what this new service would provide. But then slowly with the energy, the recognition of Red Rose Recovery and the peer workers that came in, that, yeah, they had a bit of a mountain to climb. And the character and the strength of those individuals to face that kind of head on, whilst recognizing that they also still had a few vulnerabilities themselves. It really was disarming. And as time went by, and it didn't take long, not a lot of time, I started realizing the fundamental difference with my experience of peer services beforehand was that they weren't run by peers. They were run by NHS services. They had somebody who was very academic in charge of those services and kind of instructing peer workers on how to be a peer worker. When I think the very ethos of lived experiences that you're using, your own lived experience within that framework of the job. But if we wanted you to be automatons and replacement NHS workers, we just employ more NHS workers. What we need is people with that exact box, that understanding of what it feels like to have the phone put down on you because you don't meet the criteria. You're not using enough substances to meet these doors. You're not homeless enough. You're not skint enough. You're not this enough to meet these criteria, and getting that hand in your face. It's very easy for us with the lanyards on, that have had lanyards on for 15 years. That's just part of the service. But it's more than that. It affects people's lives. And if you can look into the eyes of somebody and that person looks at you and says, you know what I'm talking about, that is different. I can empathize, I can understand, but the feeling that person gets off me is not necessarily going to be the same as it's going to be from Jenna, from Annie, from you know, Danny and the team that they've preceded. When it was developed, Glenn came in on a Saturday morning, and Glenn's touched on his story many, many times on the lounge. And I remember working with Glenn on that one of those early shifts where he came in, and we had a temporary acting custody inspector on the day. We won't go into any further details of that, but this person knew Glenn, recognised Glenn from the past, and it automatically, that was our first encounter that I'd witnessed of an obstacle. And you must remember, at this early stage, I was still a little conflicted. You know, there's a little bit here and a little bit there. But seeing the way Glenn just owned the experience, recognised where it came from, understood where this officer was coming from, didn't get defensive, didn't get antsy about it all. It was all about, well, yes, this is what we're doing, and this is the exact thing that everybody who comes after Glenn is going to experience at some stage, whether it's at that magnitude. You know, there was always so, I can't come into custody. What's going on? He's all escalating it. And the only person that was made to look foolish on that particular day was the inspector, because it just embodied prejudice and embodied. Hang on, my computer's doing something very strange here. it just embodied the negative vibe, which in many ways the service had kind of prepped us all for, because we were going to advocate for Red Roads recovery irrespective. We were always going to say, this is happening, this is what we're going to do. On that day when Glenn experienced that, that kind of cemented some of my belief, because I could see it in him. It hurt him. No doubt hurt Glenn. We had a bit of a rap about it. We ribbed each other a bit. We took a bit of a mickey out of each other. But it was a moment. It was a kind of moment that cemented and thought, yeah, all right, then well, I'm right behind these guys. I'm on board. I'm on board. That's all one thing. That's all about Glenn's attitude on the day. But then we start seeing results, and we start seeing pen to paper of what's happening. You know, you start seeing little stories coming up from your colleagues saying, "Oh, I got Scott involved in this lad, and they're engaged. He's never engaged with service before. He's never done anything with anybody before." And we see that because we can look at people's history written in black and white in people's records. It can date back to 2004, some of these documents, you know, in the electronic system. Or you can have a trail of non-engagement. You can have a trail of referrals being declined because they've got a mental health problem, but they've also got an alcohol substance misuse problem. And one won't accept the other. You know, you get barriers in these services. Get Red Rose Recovery involved. They walk that walk, and you see a promotion in engagement and improvement and outcomes, and that's the key thing. And that, you know, a smile and a wave, yeah, I've done this, I've done that, is all good and well. But when you can see that written down, and that goes to NHS commissioners, and that promotes the service, and the service gets more money and gets the opportunity to help more and more people. That's what people are looking for at the end of the day. That's more people being helped. So here we are, 15 months later, a new batch of peer workers coming in Preston. We've got, I believe we've got Ryan starting in August. Is that correct, Glenn?
Yeah, that's right, 2nd of August.
And I think we've recently acquired a second person to come in recent interviews. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For me, that's brilliant. That's like a refreshing new batch of people following on from Lisa, Scott and Louise. We're seeing it spread out. I've heard nothing but good stuff about Annie over in Blackpool. I'm bound to hear more stories about Jenna and Danny. I absolutely know that. Services are just expanding. But then, you know, I take it back to that first wave. Louise is a Band 3 support worker in the NHS now. She's, for me, that's like a real target for everybody. You know, everyone's targets are different, but that stepping stone, this 2 years of peer work opens more doors. And, you know, that's what really helps people's recovery. That's what helps people move forward. And that's what promotes the people that are in custody now to move forward as well, that we're going to make. They're just entering your service now. That's what they're striving for, and their own success story, whatever that looks like. So when it comes to that, my vision for what peer workers would look like was blown out of the water within weeks. Where it's at now is just looking forward and seeing the new people coming into services, the people maybe watching this and maybe umming and ahhing about it, thinking, "Oh, I'm not very good at spelling. I don't really know what that means," and such like that. That doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. If you're not tech savvy, that doesn't matter. If you're not great on the phone, that doesn't matter. If you're not great talking to a room full of people, that doesn't matter. As long as you can talk to somebody one-on-one and you know a way forward, you've got a chance. All the other stuff we can show you and teach you. And what then happens is you learn the computer skills, or you learn how to talk to a police officer where he's not arresting you, but it's a face-to-face, human-to-human engagement. You know, it's different. You learn all these skills and things progress, and more doors open. You can see that in Red Rose Recovery, and we can see that as NHS workers when we look at somebody like Louise, and we know there's more Louises in the wings ready to come through. We look at Scott. He's probably bags under his eyes, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with baby dribble on him and all sorts of stuff. Still, you know, he's got this opportunity that's got to hold him for the next year, and who knows what's after that. So the new workers have got these opportunities as well, and their pathways will be very, very different. But my overriding, my new vision, the thing that I really want, I was talking to my colleague Deb about this the other day, I want to see a peer worker walk into our office, whether it's in Preston, Blackpool, wherever, that I've met at the lowest ebb in police custody. I want to meet that person, and I want to recall them, and I want them to have had a good experience of me. That's low down on the priority list, but I want them to have had a good experience of me and our service and our peer workers, and that to have just been a light bulb moment in that person's life. You know, so it really is a goal. I'd love to see that, and it's every credit to the fact that the guidance you get through Red Rose Recovery, you'll have your own perception of if you're ready, but there's an honesty there. There's an honesty there from Red Rose. They're not just going to push you into something if they don't believe in you as well. You know, and some of you, when you're going for these goals, you may not have that belief in yourself. You may not be that ready in your mind, but other people say, yeah, you are. Oh, you are ready for this. And when I look at the police environment now, there's no second glances from officers. I don't see it. I don't see someone looking at somebody going, yeah, well, what's going on here? What are you about? I see, oh, this is a Red Rose Recovery NHS worker. When I'm sitting in the court, where I spend all my week, I will talk to district judges, I'll talk to magistrates, and I have conversations with solicitors and probation and the cells, you know, all these people that aren't necessarily familiar with Red Rose Recovery. Then I'm hearing solicitors talking about Red Rose Recovery. I'm hearing about this person's working with Red Rose Recovery, a peer group, and they're talking about it. They know the environment. When I'm lucky enough to go and talk to some of the magistrates talking about what our service offers, it's not just liaison and diversion, it's Red Rose Recovery. And the way that one day those magistrates might see somebody in the dock and then see him again in another guise and have that shock that, yeah, you beat it, you did it, you get in there, you keep him moving forward. So all in all, my perception and recognition of what a good, well-run peer support service looks like has changed. And I'd use in my experiences last year every day. You know, that change, recognizing that you don't just stay in one place. Things do evolve and change. So anyway, that's probably about as far as I could go. All I can say is, wasn't so keen first. Now I'm right up here.
We have got a question. Leanne Moore said, can you do the work that you do but train in the mental health side of it? I really believe that the police systems need more people with mental health understanding. And how do you get the training for these jobs? She doesn't know where to start. So,
well, I'm a support worker. I you know, if you look in services within Lancashire Care, a lot of the support worker roles, you don't need many qualifications. There's experience. A lot of people will be asking you for MVQs, which you can do at your local further education environments and such like. It's not all about going to university for 3 years, and that puts a lot of people off. You know, oh, I've got to go to university for 3 years, and you know, I don't know if I can commit to that. Get yourself signed up for an MVQ level 2. Do a bit of bank work. You can sign up for bank work if you've you know, you've got the right background and such like. You know, as in, you know, you're not currently offending or anything like that. It needs to be a period of time where you've been offence free and such like. There's a lot of these environments, you do need to have vetting and DBS checks and such like. If you are going to be going into Red Rose Recovery, I believe, Glenn may be able to tell me more about this, is an understanding that of the role with the police and with the NHS, so there's got to be certain issues. But one of my colleagues, she regularly says it's the only interviewing process where you're expected to have poor decision making in your past. You're expected to have made poor choices in the past. You're expected to have been picked up by the bobbies. You're expected to have had all these negative experiences. But
it's lived experience, isn't it? And that's
it's what you've done with those. But when it comes to getting access to NHS services, it's not all about being university educated. There's so many support workers. There's so many people that work in the NHS that have got no qualifications whatsoever. All they have is the ability to care. compassion, empathy, understanding of what people are about. I think for me, if you are going to go into the care environment, you have to do it for other people. You don't do it for yourself. That comes afterwards. You know, once you're involved in that area, you want to help somebody, you want to get somebody in a better place. Your development comes along with it afterwards, and it grows.
Mm.
All sorts of little pathways. All I suggest is a simple Google search, care work, Lancashire Care, whichever one's your local trust, because I'm sure there'll be people that aren't necessarily within Lancashire watching. Just have a little look at job descriptions, and you'll find all the information you need.
Thank you.
And I think that you touched on a few things. I put a few notes there, Craig, around, I'll just touch on that bit around 3 of the peer support workers that we employed 15 months ago, not one of them are doing that peer support worker role anymore. One of them's managing a supported housing. One of them's employed by the NHS, and the other one is employed by NHS, and one of them is working in forensic services as well. So it just shows you, and what the beauty of it is when we had that initial discussion 15 months ago, the model of the L&D was, they said 12 to 18 months, 2 years, what they will do is look at their development, whether that be within the NHS, whether that be Red Rose, whatever service, they will look at how people can develop. So, and I know the colleague that you're on about, Craig, and she says it to me on a daily basis around, it's the only job that I know where you have to have offending history and lived experience. Somebody called me up last week. They had a BA honours, they had done criminology, their CV was absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And I had to turn around and say, I'm sorry, you don't fit the criteria. And it was absolutely a surreal moment to say that, because what the L&D have done is they put the head above the parapet and said, you've got to have that to actually meet the criteria to get this job. So what I would advise is for anybody that wants to get into that sort of setting, like Craig said, you can go through the NHS side, support worker, or you could even go through Red Rose and other charities or third sector organisations. The opportunities are there. And what I've touched on as well around, so the barriers, Craig, around that day, I remember that day because it still haunts me to this day around in custody. But what I always said was that I was glad it happened to me, because I'd done a lot of work on myself over the years, and I was quite resilient enough to be able to overcome that. And what I always said was that people can judge me for my past. It's not going to hurt me any more than I've judged myself. So I could overcome that. But the reason I wanted Craig to come on, because his integrity and his honesty around his perception of the peer support worker role at the time is really important, because there's people going in different areas, and some people might have that same perception. And it's about managing expectations and stuff like that. But like what I will say to the peer support workers that are in them police stations or them custody suites is that you could get that in the community. It's not about you just getting it in there. I've had it from people that are just walking down the street. And if you do that, what I will say is that could have been a breaking point for me at that time. I was already employed. I'd already been employed with Red Rose for a long time. This was a new element of my role. But at that time, I could have gone the other way and thought to myself, I'm not working in that environment again. Take me out of it. I don't want to do that. What I will say is,
it wasn't just a comment, was it, Glenn? It was just a sustained kind of effort to say, what is going on here? You know, never stuff that preceded it. This particular man was not happy with this, and that wasn't happening. And it wasn't just a snippy word; it was a concerted effort.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's and that I've written it down here. It's culture in it. It's a mindset and it's a culture. And the fact that the L&D wrapped around me at that time, every single one of that team that day, and also the wider team that wasn't in that day, wrapped around me and said, this is not acceptable and we're going to do something about it. And that made me feel safe. And because ultimately when I went into that role, I had my reservations about it as well. I'd never worked in that environment. And from my background and from my beliefs and values, it was a case of, am I good enough to be there? Have I got the skill set to be there? And I had all these things going around in my head, and sometimes I still pinch myself on a daily basis to say that am I still doing it? But that's what I want to emphasize on, is the fact that they didn't look at your past, they looked at your skill set. So yeah, and what Craig said before around being able to empathize and meet people where they're at, that's not saying that the practitioners are bad at engaging. That's just the perception of the person sat in that cell.
Absolutely.
And I remember it to this day, this well, and I'll always remember it. When I was coming through them custody suites many years ago, when anybody working comes to my door, my response was, shut my door on your way out. And that was my perception. That wasn't anything about the skill set of the practitioner or anything like that. So, but also it's not about just providing lived experience in them environments. We couldn't do it without the L&D team neither, and with that wraparound support. And it's that balance in between. And I've got nothing to say.
What I would say for anybody who was starting afresh, well, as an L&D team, as practitioners, we're a year into this. 15 months into this, I don't think any new practitioner is going to find anything but support from our service. Any new peer worker, I beg your pardon, they're just going to, we know what you can offer. We know you're going to offer things in a different way. We know you're your own individual people. And we know the next wave that come in next year or the year after, they're going to be individuals within that. As soon as you encounter those difficult moments, which we as practitioners do, we get slammed, we get picked at, we get, what do you know? As soon as you experience that, you're going to have a team of people around you that can support you. And like Glenn said, really wrap around you. If you need time out, you take time out. If you need a moment, you take a moment. Don't feel like you have to prove yourselves to us. You take your time, you grow into it. If something feels out of your reach on that particular day, own it, accept it. We'll accept it as well, and we'll help you grab it the next day. It's just about feeling that you have that time and you have that support. And a year in, when you're moving on to whichever development step you're on, you can reflect on all those difficult moments, and you'll probably see there's been more good stuff in there. You know, you'll see more people that you've supported and that value you, and probably wouldn't have got to those little steps without your input. And again, it's just about wrapping around you and knowing where your team is when we're all one team.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks for that, Craig. Is there any comments, Emily? Do you want to come in?
There's loads. Jenna's got a full fan club. She's got a full fan club. Yeah, we've got Barbara. So over the last 7 years, I've watched Red Rose Recovery grow and grow. We are breaking into new territory every day and making people take notice of what we can achieve. Barbara, again, give anyone from Red Rose Recovery the chance to prove themselves, and we will do our very best to smash each and every project that we are involved in, which is true, isn't it? We've got lots of people that are watching. Leanne, Stephen Jenkinson, he said that was brilliant. Emma G. We've got Carla Shaw, Shazza Pritchard, Jenna smiling because she knows who these people are. Lindsay Jackson, yeah, there's lots of people. So yeah, thank you. I found that really interesting as well.
Thank you. So,
can I just mention, Glenn?
Yeah, of course you can.
Just on the back of the question about how to get into, mental health or services and things like that, it's just not forgetting the volunteer route as well, because there's a lot of volunteer opportunities, whether it be the trust or third sector services, that can be really useful in getting into, when you're going into interviews and things like that. When I start on interview panels, if people have got that voluntary experience, whether it be anywhere, food kitchen or anything like that, it's really useful, because people now, when they're going for interviews, they're not wanting all that academic stuff that Craig's talked about. You know, they're wanting somebody that's got a real understanding of what's going out there in the communities. You know, have they got that real genuine want to help people? You know, so it's that comes across more so, I would say, now when somebody's applying for a support worker role than even an MVQ too. They wouldn't be bothered about you having an MVQ. They'll say, we'll support you to do that. Most jobs will say, if you take the role, we expect you to undertake an MVQ 2 or something like that. So Absolutely. Don't put anybody off applying for jobs for whatever reasons. Like Craig said, I think it's a really good example. If people think it's not for me because I can't spell, or I'm no good with computers and all that sort of stuff. Forget all that. Just get out there, get some experience, volunteer, and just apply for stuff. Because there's people crying out for it. There's a lot of services crying out for people with that, you know, with experiences that everybody's got out there, but are being wasted.
You articulated that far better than me, David. That was spot on.
Well, that's why I came in, Craig, really.
Yeah, and the volunteer route is a brilliant way. I will promote it because it's where I started. I went for many jobs and got many knockbacks flat in my face because of my offending history and my DBS. And what it was is that my DBS didn't paint a picture of what I was. It was just all that they were seeing is convictions and convictions. Now, I get it. I totally get it, because when you're looking at it and you're trying to employ somebody, so I had to navigate it through the volunteer route, and that's how I achieved and get where I am today. So I emphasize on that, and I think that it's a brilliant route because you show your dedication, your commitment, your work ethic. And do you know what mindset I had when I previously to starting volunteering? Why would I go and volunteer and why would I go and do that and work for nothing? But I had the wrong mindset around that, and I'm just really glad that I did. So thanks for that, David. Joe, I'm going to bring you in now. So Joe's going to sing us a song. He's our entertainment for the night. You ready, Joe?
Yeah, I'm ready. Do you want me to start now? Yeah.
Yeah. Can everyone put themselves on mute, please?
Yeah.
I will be turning my camera off. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine, Joe.
Cheers. Thank you.
Let's give Joe some love and let's share this, yeah?
No matter how hard I've tried, I keep pushing me aside and I can't break through. There's no talking to you. It's so sad that you're leaving. It takes time to believe it. And after all is said and done, you're gonna be the lonely one. No. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, but I really don't think I'm strong enough now. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, but I really don't think I'm strong enough now. Well, I know that I'll get through this, but I know that I am strong. I don't need you anymore. 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 Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, but I really don't think I'm strong enough now. How do you believe in life after love, love, love? Do you believe in life after love, love, love? Yeah.
Wow.
Brilliant, Joe.
Do you know, I always try and get on here to sing and they never let me. They just always find somebody to take my place. Joe, that were brilliant.
Thank
well
you.
Well done, Joe. Brilliant as ever.
Lots of comments as well. Songs mean so much more to me since being in recovery. That's Chris Rowlands and Chris Phillipson. Yes, Joe. Lindsay Jackson, go on, Joe. Cara Battle, get in, Joe. And awesome to hear this song by a bloke's voice. It's true that. It is. It's real. Yeah. Well done.
Cheers, mate. And if you're going to stick around and sing us another song at the end, aren't you, Joe? Cheers, mate. So next on the agenda is our lovely Jenny. I'll let her introduce herself. She's going to do a bit of a share. So what I would say is, before she does that, shares can be really, really powerful. And obviously Craig touched on it, and I touched on it before about wrapping around people when they're talking about the story and the journey and stuff. So what I would say is that potentially sharing and liking this page could obviously reach someone that's really, really struggling, and they might be able to resonate with what Jenna's going to say. So please, can I ask you all that's on this stream to like and share to as many groups as possible. So I'll let Jenna take over. You are on mute, Jenna, before it catches you out. So there you go, mate.
Thanks, Glenn. So yeah, I'm Jenna. I'm going to just kind of speak about, you know, a bit of my background. Like I am in recovery from drug and alcohol misuse. So I'll kind of speak a little bit around my addiction, and then kind of how I got employed with Red Rose Recovery to work with Liaison and Diversion. So yeah, for me, you know, I suffer with a disease of addiction, which I've now found out is not just alcohol or drugs. It can be men, food, you know, just anything that I can kind of find that will remove me from feeling what I'm feeling, you know, to fill that internal void that I had missing for many, many years. You know, I started drinking quite young, around the age of 12. You know, and from there, it kind of progressed my drinking. You know, I was sexually assaulted at the age of around 12-year-old by a friend's stepdad. And that kind of, at that age, you know, I'd never really even like kissed a boy at that age or anything like that. It wasn't really in my kind of area of, or, you know, boys were never kind of, you know, in my eyesight as such, you know, and that kind of horrific thing happened to me as a young girl, you know, and that's where the drinking like progressed for many years, you know, kind of just out on the park, you know, out with my friends, and kind of I kind of hung around with you know, well, for me it was normal back then, you know, quite what's the word, you know, they weren't the best behaved kids, but I was quite a good teenager, if you will. And you know, I never really got in much trouble, and kind of, yeah, well, I was quite a good kid. But then I got to the age of around 14, 15, and I got in a relationship, you know, that kind of was very, very violently abusive, mentally abusive, and emotionally abusive, you know, at the age of quite a young age. You know, and from then, and I think at that point, I think I've broken up with him, and on the back of that, because I didn't want to feel them emotions and kind of that internal horribleness that I was feeling, I picked up my first drug, and my addiction kind of just begun there. You know, I picked up that first drug and progressed to harder drugs, and you know, it continued for many years. And I think with the kind of the abuse side of it, you know, the abuse within the relationship, it was one of them. I think from what I know now from outside kind of counselling that I've had, you know, I have been told that from the abuse, you know, the assault that happened, you know, I kind of had all my core beliefs removed at that point. So then going into a relationship that was violently abusive, I never knew any different. I kind of accepted that that's all that I was deserving of. You know, and that's what I believed within myself. You know, I believed that, you know what, this must just be the life that I'm gonna live for however long. you know, and then I split up with him. I mean, I was still young then. I were only 18 at that point, and I then got in another relationship with my children's father, and again, that wasn't, you know, it was a very toxic kind of relationship. Again, violent abuse, emotional, and you know, but that kind of, I had 3 children with him. I got pregnant very early. You know, I used all the way through my first pregnancy. I kind of stopped myself then from saying that, but I thought, you know what, I need to be honest here around, you know, what the lengths that my addiction took me to then. But yeah, I did. You know, I used all the way through and drank all the way through that pregnancy, and never ever seen any shame of it. You know, I justified that stuff by, I'm only a young girl. I need to still feel like, you know, I'm having fun. You know, and that's not an excuse for what I've done. You know, I put my child in danger. and that for me is not acceptable. You know, and I carried on using after I had him. I had another 2 children with the same man, but my mental health along with my addiction just was going downhill, you know, and I thought it was just me. I thought I was just this, you know, I was very insecure. There was a lot of kind of cheating going on in the relationship, you know, and I was obsessed with finding out who he was with and, you know, what he was doing, and it drove me crazy to the point of, you know, I attempted, you know, suicide on my own life, you know, and because I just didn't want to feel like how I was feeling anymore. You know, the drugs weren't really doing much for me, and I just was like, oh, do you know, I don't want to feel like this anymore, and I'm going to just end my life, you know, just the insanity of it. You know, I had my children, and that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to fill that void of that internal void that I was feeling at that time. And, you know, and that kind of continued. I was in that relationship for 10 years, you know, and I kind of carried on because I had 3 children with this man. And, you know, and it came to an end at the point where he was physically violent to me, physically abusive to me in front of my children and my 2 youngest as well. And I just thought, no, I can't keep doing this, can't do it to them, and I can't keep doing it to myself. You know, and that relationship ended, but then that ended and my addiction really, really took control. That was then the point of, you know, because when he was here, I was using, but I was using slyly. I wasn't, you know, it was kind of like a big secret. He didn't really like me taking things, and you know, it was just one of them on the side kind of thing. And I know I was always using anyway. So then when we split up, that was like my green light then. Do you know what? I can go, I can do whatever I want. I don't have him to answer to. The kids don't know any different. They're too young. Excuse me. So that's me. I can do what I want. And that's exactly what I did. You know, it came to the point where I was using practically every day. You know, I was a support worker for adults with learning difficulties, and I was leaving jobs there, just coming home, using, picking my children up, driving my car, you know, not eating, you know, not really sleep. But no, well, I was using, you know, enough per during the day, and then at night time I was bringing myself down with like prescription drugs. So I was then addicted to them as well, and which I honestly did not know about until I started my recovery. Yeah, and it just continued that for a good couple of years. But then from that, my behaviours then came out in all areas. You know, I was filling that void with men, you know, not just men who were single men, you know, men who was in relationships. You know, I was sleeping with them behind the girlfriend's backs, and one of which was a very good friend of mine's at the time, partner, you know, and that kind of, that went against everything that I ever believed in. You know, I had that kind of behavior done to me. I've you know, I've been treated badly like that, and that just kind of really, I just knew, I just thought, what, you know, what are you doing? This is not this is not the person you are. You know, you're doing these things, and why are you doing this stuff? Why do you need a man to kind of validate you? You know, and I didn't understand it. I really didn't have a clue. I just thought it's just me being me, you know. So what, you know, kind of that attitude. And you know, and through all this, you know, my son, my eldest child, he was kind of didn't really want to be around me, didn't want to be at home, wanted to be with his dad a lot, you know, because my house was just used as a constant party house. Everybody came here, you know, hey, I'll just, all right, come, we'll have drinks at mine, or come on, we'll do this, or what, and the kids would be running around, and it was just pure bedlam. And you know, there was times when I struggled to feed my children. You know, I'd ring up family, oh, do you want to make us tea tonight? And because I knew deep down that I had nothing to eat for them, and I just thought, I'm all right not eating because I can use, but they need to eat something. I need to find something for them to eat, you know. I was, you know, I'd received an eviction notice from my home, and, you know, and the children's dad was seeing kind of that something wasn't right, you know, and it did get to a point, and so he said, you sort your shit out, or sorry for swearing, but sort your shit out, or I'm gonna take these kids, you know. And my instant thought was, go on then. Do you know, as selfish as that is, that I just thought, go ahead, take them kids, because that just gives me that further green light to just continue using for as long as I need to. You know, and my life was just spiraling out of control and fast. You know, I'd lost from the time of me splitting up with my partner to at this point when I went into recovery, you know, I'd lost 5 stone in weight, and I thought, I actually thought, got it going on here, you've lost all this weight, look at me. And now when I look at them pictures, just think, oh my God, what did you know, what was going on in your mind that you thought you actually looked all right at that point? You know, yeah, and it kind of, it just came to a point where I was broken. And I think I attempted suicide again, because again, I couldn't sit with that, you know, that excruciating pain that I was in, knowing that I'd harmed so many people, harming myself, harming my children, you know. And at this point, I'd seen a Facebook post of a really good friend of mine, who was in rehab at the time, and it was 130 days clean, and every time I ever share about anything, you know, my life story stuff, I always mention this guy, because he'll never ever realize how much I appreciate him. Feel quite emotional. Yeah, do you know how much I actually appreciate him? Because, sorry, he will never ever realize how, like, what he did for me. So yeah, anyway, and I spoke to him, and he guided me to Narcotics Anonymous, and you know, and I went to my first meeting, and I done what Narcotics Anonymous suggest for addicts to do. You know, and I do believe, by the grace of God, that I am here through Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I didn't know that Red Rose even existed at this point. You know, it's kind of a thing that I've sort of got to know about throughout my recovery. You know, and 2.5 years later, here I am, you know, doing my life story on a LUF Lounge, you know, which is crazy. But yeah, so, you know, it's been a whirlwind of my recovery. You know, me as a person has massively changed. You know, I was quite an angry, you know, I had like a bit of a mask on, didn't want people to know who I really was, and that's all been removed. You know, I'm quite a kind, caring, compassionate person, you know, and I you know, I don't, you know, and I think I was very judgmental when I started my recovery, and that again is something that has massively turned around. You know, not a lot of people know my story, my real story, like kind of the sexual assault stuff. I never shared that with anybody until I got clean, I never even shared it with my mum. You know, that was something that I've carried around with me for many, many years. But getting clean and then knowing that I've got my own voice and I am my own person to be able to share that stuff with other people. You know, and I'm not ashamed. I was very ashamed of it, and I'm not anymore. I can openly say, do you know what? Yeah, that happened to me, but I've got through that. You know, I've recovered from that stuff. So yeah. Anyway, so then I got to. I'm going to just fast forward to where I'm at now. You know, a few months ago, I'd kind of put an application in for. No, in fact, I'd seen an advertisement for a job that wanted people with experience of drug and alcohol misuse and a criminal background as such. And I thought, well, I've got both of them, you know, surely that's not right. Anyway, you know, and I applied and I got through and I got an interview, you know. Do you know, and I'm really rubbish at interviews, really, really rubbish at interviews. And I'm also doing a university course as well. And I had to do an interview for one of my modules last year, and I was really rubbish at that anyway. So I went on the interview, and to be honest, I was just myself. You know, I kind of spoke around what I feel that I can offer, or my experience within my recovery and stuff like that, you know. And I was pretty shocked that I got the phone call back and they offered me the job, you know, and I've always had that kind of self-doubt in myself that I haven't got much to offer anybody, you know, because that's what I've always sort of believed, and because I have had these core beliefs removed at a young age that I've never thought I deserve anything better than what I've always had, you know, and you know, and I don't see that today, you know. Today I do believe I deserve a good life, and anybody that is in addiction or out of addiction or mental health, everybody deserves to have a good life. And it is difficult to get to that, you know. If anyone is suffering, it's a difficult road to get to that, but once you get it, you'll never ever look back, because I never have. You know, I never ever look back at what I was or what I've done. You know, it's something that, you know, that my past is what in my past, you know. I have done those things and I've left it there, and I can move on, and I'm a better person today. You know, I'm a better mother, I'm a better daughter, I'm a better sister. And I've got a lot to offer, you know. I'm a good friend, and I'm, for me, I believe I'm a good person. You know, and I came into my job role, and again, full of self-doubt, and you know, the practitioners within like you know, L&D, as we call it, liaison and diversion, have been nothing but truly, you know, welcoming, you know, really supportive. Glenn as well is, I think he's probably fed up of ringing me now, because I'm like, or me ringing him, you know, but really, really supportive people, you know, like David's on, and I had a really kind of in-depth talk with him on the first time I ever met him around my recovery and stuff. And, you know, and it was just really good. There's no judgments there around our past, and I feel part of, you know, I don't feel below anybody. I've always been made to feel part of. And I think it's kind of when I'm very new to the role as a peer support worker. And I think once I get into it and I start getting like, you know, clients and stuff, I know I'm going to love it, because I'm already loving it already, you know, and I'm learning things every single day. And I think, you know, I've already had one kind of request from somebody who wanted a peer support worker to work with so they could engage better with them. And not better, sorry, that was a wrong word to say, but they felt that they could probably engage more with someone with kind of lived experience of that, you know, which for me is kind of an honor to be able to do that. You know, if I can show anybody that, you know what, that there's a different way of life that is out there to offer people, then I will try my very hardest. Feel like I'm wittering on and digging myself a little hole, so I'm gonna kind of leave it there. Thanks everyone.
Oh, Jenna, honest to God, the amount of love you have got is unbelievable. Honestly, let me just wow, honest to God, listening to you then was like listening to my life. And a lot of the ladies have said that listening is like listening to what, you know, what went on for us. And I think sometimes I think you get somebody who comes into like Red Rose and things like that, and they just have that something about them, and you just think, yeah, they've got that, and you're one of them. Honestly, you've been such an inspiration to people. You inspire me. I think you're lovely. I've had some conversation with you. I just need to read out what. Oh my God. Do you know what you share was so real and raw and honest, and that's what people need. And I think it's that stuff that gets people better. The fact that you don't hold back, you say it how it is, it's out there, that's it. And well, I've got goosebumps. Carla Shaw's put, I feel like you're telling my story. Bev Webster, so brave, Jenna, and such a powerful story. Rhiannon Davis, true inspiration, Jenna, honestly loving how honest this share is. Lindsay Jackson, powerful, honest, and an inspiration to anyone who thinks there's no hope. It's right here in front of you. Janine Boyerin's watching. She really wants to get involved in this sort of stuff. She's absolutely smashing her recovery. She's a local East girl. We've got Cara Battle, love and support, Jenna, inspirational story. Rianne, honestly, really need to hear this. Real, honest, brave, and a strong, independent woman, and it gives me hope and power. David Simpson, Jenna, is one amazing woman. Shelley Nixon, Glenn praises you. He's an awesome line manager who genuinely wants the best for each and every one of you. You are a part of a great team, and you certainly belong to be there. Carla Shaw, I'm getting so much from your story. I know I'm not on my own, and how you feel at times. No one understands me. How could they? They haven't been through what I've been through. That's just how we are. Shows we are not alone. Thank you so much, Jenna. Luke Harper's watching. He's another one who's absolutely smashing the recovery. Brad Duke, Carla, she's brilliant. I'm so grateful. I'm honoured that you're my sponsor. Kevin Ross, Jenna, well done. What a testimony. That's so inspired people. You're amazing. God bless. I tell you what, that just shows it honestly, and the views have gone up. Roxanne Jones, amazing, Jenna, well done. There's just honestly, and I think it's the fact that you're actually real. You've not bullshitted your way around any of that. You've not kept it. You've just put it out there, and I just want to say thank you so much for that. And you know, Glenn.
Yeah. What can I say? What can I say? Other than wow. Just absorb all that feedback. How do you feel about it?
You're on mute as well, Jenna, just to let you know.
Sorry, someone were at my bloody door and then dog's frigging barking. Sorry. Yeah, do you know what? I've done quite a lot of shares through obviously Narcotics Anonymous, but that I think is probably one of the most emotional ones I've ever done. You know, I think because there is so many. I know that there's so many people. Well, there's people watching, and it's kind of, I think it does get to me. You know, it does kind of them emotions of knowing where I've come from and where I'm at today. You know, it's an emotional process, but I can't thank anyone enough. So tell everybody thank you.
And you're going to help so many people. I think when you do these slides and it gets shared, it helps so many people. So many people think, oh my God, yeah, that's what I was like. That's how and they don't feel that shame, because we will, as addicts, and we feel a lot of shame and guilt, and we carry that, and we don't want to tell people because we feel like we're bad people. But when we share it, I think it gets us better. I think it keeps people well by just being honest and raw.
Authenticity.
Carla said she can't hear anything. Can anybody else hear on Carla's shows? But I can't hear anything.
I can hear it.
Can you hear us? Can anybody else? Because we'll just like put a message on the live just if they can hear us, because no one else is typing now. Willie McBlain's watching as well. Hello, Willie. We're missing you, but Shazza can hear us. We're all right.
Right, okay. Yeah. Firstly, I don't get sick of you ringing me at all. You probably get sick of me ringing you, so don't worry about that. And the fact that when I see you do it on a group, Jenna, the only word that I can describe is authenticity. And I think that when you reel like that and you share your story like that, and it's something tangible for other people, and to give them hope and say that what they can achieve, and where you are today and what you're doing, and the L&D team in the East have got nothing but praise to say about you. I know we've had many conversations around you wanting clients and you wanting to get out there and document it, and we've had numerous conversations about your REOR card and access, but ultimately we'll get you there. So well done. Does anyone on this
Thanks,
platform
Glenn.
want to come in and say anything?
Well, Glenn,
My card.
Yep.
have you got in before me there, Craig? Well, Jenna, I'll just say thank you, because you can go on talking about how that's affected different people in different ways, but just thank you for sharing it, Jenna, and being open and honest. And and you mentioned the little chat that we had. I'm learning so much from you, and hopefully we're going to be a great team together. And Danny as well. I can't wait for it all to come together. A bit jealous of what Craig's got really in Preston, because they got there before us, but I'm sure we'll catch them up.
And I love how real it is with Jenna. Jenna's like me at home. She's like, kids. And then you're like going, and then kids are like, dogs everywhere. You're like, oh, yeah. Jenna, it's fine. I'm with you on that one. My son came in before and I'm like,
get out. Go.
Jenna, that were awesome. And I was so looking forward to hearing what you had to say, and that was a share that touched me right here. And you're right, you will be reaching loads of people that you're going to be helping just by hearing that. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, thanks, Anna.
Sorry.
Yeah, that superb, Jenna. Thanks for being so honest, and thanks for sharing that with us. And I've enjoyed working with you at the beginning of this this journey. So.
oh,
Thank
are you
God,
feeling that
Danny.
love, Jenna? Do you feel that love?
I am, I am. Thank you.
And if don't sit with this as well after this. Pick the phone up. You can phone a friend. You can phone me. You can phone Glenn. Glenn's available 24/7. If anybody wants to ring Glenn, he's available 24/7, all the time. 0800. I'm joking. Willie's just put, hi Emily, everyone else, keep going. Love you all. Thanks to Emily. I know, yeah, she's been there. Love Willie. Oh, thanks. I didn't actually realize. Sorry, I thought it was actually about something else. Thanks, Willie. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but see, on a serious note, obviously we know that coming on these platforms and sharing your story, like I said earlier, can get a bit raw and stuff like that. So yeah, my phone is on. Stuck on the line manager for this weekend, but it's always on. Yeah, so we'll keep that quiet. But because we're in it for the right reasons, aren't we? We're in it to support people, and people need support. Recovery in whatever sense that isn't 9 to 5. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So reach out if you do need that. So next on the agenda, moving on, because obviously we've got a few more people still to come in. We've got Mark. Mark, do you want to come and introduce yourself, mate? And tell us what you're going to talk about.
Hi, Glenn, thank you very much. First of all, if it was you that did this running order, I owe you one, because I don't know how I'm supposed to follow Jenna. That was truly inspirational, Jenna. We've never met each other, but yeah, it was very touching, very honest, and very powerful. So thank you. And thanks, Annie and Glenn, for inviting me on. So I'm the Blackpool hepatitis C community worker. A little bit of background about how this role came about was I've been doing it for about 2.5 years. And Blackpool's got high prevalence of hepatitis C, and there was a lot of people being tested positive and then just dropping off the radar, and not following through with any treatment. So initially it was the pharmaceutical company called Gilead that supplied the Hep C medication in Blackpool, set up a pilot for 18 months, this role to test people, refer in, support them to pathology for the bloods, support them for fibre scans, all the way through the journey, and help towards eradicating hepatitis C in Blackpool. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell. I work out in the community. So I set up testing sessions in drug and alcohol services, probation. Every Thursday morning, myself and a Hep C nurse go around the different hostels in Blackpool, set up testing sessions. And if somebody tests positive, then I have to mention as well, I have this machine. It's like a portable lab. So I dry blood spot test somebody, and then we get the result in an hour. So not only can I inform somebody that the result in an hour, but I can refer them in that same day if they come back positive as well. And then they'll need more. 9 times out of 10, they'll need bloods from pathology. So we swap phone numbers, and I offered to take them, pick them up in my car, take them to pathology, drop them off home again, and then they'll have a phone assessment from the Hep C team at the hospital, Blackpool Vic, and as long as there's no complications, they'll be put forward for a medication start date. And it's as simple as that. We'll try to make it as simple as possible to get people through treatment. Bit about the medication, it's advanced so much. It's in a nutshell, it's a tablet a day, minimum side effects, a course of 2 or 3 months, 96% success rate. Every single person that I've worked with in the last 2.5 years that has completed the medication has cleared the Hep C. So it cures it, you know. Moving forward, nobody need tell anyone that they've ever had Hep C. That's how amazing it is. I love the role because right from the beginning, if I test somebody who's come positive and refer them in and offer them support, I might only be working with them for the course of the medication about 4 months. But it's so positive because some people that I've worked with have had hepatitis for 10, 20 plus years, you know. To see somebody come through treatment and then be tested that they've cleared the hepatitis C, it's amazing. I absolutely love the role, and the feedback that we get is quite incredible. So I just get out there. I throw a load of testing kits in my car. I've tested people in the flats, you know, on coffee tables. It's about trying to target the hard to reach as well. So there's like the homeless population in Blackpool. We get out and about there. We have a bus as well that I take out twice a week out into the community. Got a massive green sign down the side of it. Have a free Hep C test here today. Blacked out windows. We have a nurse on there as well that does wound management if anybody needs anything like that, and the housing worker. So that's a bit of a one-stop shop. That's basically what we do. It's I just get out there and try my best to get people through treatment. There's a lot of people still think it's the old treatment from years ago. It used to be interferon, which was bit of a nightmare, you know, 6-month course, injecting yourself, loads of appointments, and it was very hard to get prescribed, and it did have an effect on people's mental health as well as physical health, and that was only a 50-50 chance of clearing the Hep C. So imagine going through all that to be told that you still got Hep C, you know. So the medication has advanced so much, and I'm just trying to get the message out there. One last thing is it's World Hepatitis Day coming up on the 28th of July. So I've organised a couple of events in Blackpool. We're taking the bus out. We're going to a big pharmacy in Blackpool on Waterloo Road, Whitworths, parking up. I work closely with the Hepatitis C Trust. They're sending a couple of volunteers over, and they're giving me some £5 vouchers as well, food vouchers. So everybody that has a test gets a voucher, which is great. And the day after that, I'm going to the centre of, we have an estate in Blackpool called Grange Park, and in the centre of that is the hub. So there's a cafe, library, allotment, pharmacy, all that together, big car park, pull the bus up, again, £5 vouchers, just get out there, spread the word, and let people, you know, come on, have a test, and just, it's just about letting people know that the medication has moved on, that it's non-invasive, that you can be cured of Hep C within 3 months, you know. So that's basically what we're trying to do in Blackpool in a nutshell. That's about it, really, Glenn. Unless anybody's got any questions or anything.
Is that what, Glenn, is that what we did at the LUF in Burnley? Because I think I had the Hep C test. It's the swab, isn't it?
Yeah, we do it as well in East Lancashire. Yeah,
it's really, there's a lot of people have put Carla Shaw put it's amazing technology in our days, you know, so a lot of people, I mean, I didn't even know about it until I was told about it, you know, so I think it needs to be shared. I think we definitely need to share this out so that people are aware, because like I said, I had no clue whatsoever that you could do that, and it was so quick and easy, and the results came back, and you know, within 15 minutes. So and Cara Battles put, there's nothing to fear with that treatment. This service sounds great, lack of judgment and pure understanding, you know, so it is, it's definitely Cara sounds like a brilliant service. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are interested. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that it's really, really important, because the consequences of not going and having a test can be severe. Because obviously back in the day when like Mark was saying around, it's that fear of judgment and being stigmatized as you're dirty, and people thinking that potentially you're an IV drug user. And sometimes that's not the case, because you can catch it from many other ways. So you can use it from snorting cocaine, paraphernalia. There's loads of different ways, even getting your hair cut, sharing razors, stuff like that. So for the message from that is go and get tested, because in 3 months you could be free of hepatitis C. And if you don't go and test, then consequences of living with it for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, you're ending up ruining your liver, where you might not be able to come back from that. So Mark's message is really, really important. I remember having a conversation with a public health official a couple of years ago, and they said they were trying to eradicate it. Don't know what the data around that is now in respect of that, but what I will say is that just go and get tested. And obviously there's different, we do it in the East, I know you're doing it in Blackpool, there'll be other places. The point is, it doesn't matter where you go and get tested. The point is go and get tested. So thank you, Mark, I appreciate that.
Thanks very much, Glenn. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoying myself tonight.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So next on the agenda, do you want to come in, David? All right, okay, that's fine. So next on the agenda, we've got Annie. So Annie is the peer support worker in Blackpool. I won't give too much away, because I won't steal her limelight. So Annie, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, cheers, Mark, for doing that. That was great. Okay, yes, so I'm Annie from Blackpool, and the peer support role with the Liaison Diversion team, it worked so well in Preston that they've decided to do it in Blackpool as well. And I've been working there for a month, but before that, I'll say quickly about my background, which is like 40 years of active addiction, which involved many things like homelessness, violence, prison, all the things you can imagine. And when getting involved in addiction, I've got experience of. So when I first got clean, I got a volunteer job with a prescribing service, sorry. And my role was to be a peer mentor, but the way things worked out, they needed somebody in reception, and I ended up doing reception work for 3 years, which is amazing because I knew nothing about how to operate computers, really. I knew how to switch them on, and I had to learn everything, and I had to gain confidence on the phone to talk to people. All these things I couldn't do before I started that job, you know. So that somebody was saying earlier, if you don't know these things, don't let it put you off. And I'm telling you now, don't let it put you off, because people wrap around you and teach you and help you learn. However, my heart was always to work with people, to work with people like myself and offer them hope. And I wasn't able to do that and move into that role in the place I was working because I required certificates that I don't have. And the certificates weren't something that I could afford to go and get. And then I heard about the peer support worker role. And it was like, yeah, I thought I'll apply for that. And I didn't really have a lot of self-belief about getting it, to be honest, because I thought there would be like people who had done something similar who were more likely to get the role. But I applied for it anyway. I was very nervous and I was very excited when I got the job. Then I had quite a long period to wait due to being vetted by the police, because we've all got criminal convictions. We have to be vetted if we're going to be in the custody at the police station. And so that gave me time to get really fearful about starting. And although the team wrapped around, you know, even before I started the job, the Red Rose team, they would be ringing me up and supporting me, especially Glenn, thank you, Glenn, ringing me up and saying, you know, don't worry about this, don't worry about that, and we'll be there, and if you've got any questions. And I found it all quite overwhelming because it was so lovely, and I wasn't used to that kind of thing happening from an employer, if you like. Anyway, so I started a month ago, and I had these I had this fear that I was going to, because I knew I would be working alongside the recovery, the ICM support, who are basically support workers, grade 3 support workers and grade 4, higher up than me, who had experience and had qualifications. And I started to think that I was going to be judged on how I spoke to people, and I felt really nervous. Then when I actually started to speak to clients, it just came natural, because they're just addicts like me, or they're just people with mental health problems, or they're just people who are suffering in one way or another. And so far I've been able to identify with everybody that I've seen, because I've been through something similar. So now, a few weeks down the line, I feel like my job is basically to try to empower, support and motivate people to make like positive changes. And I've shared some of my life experience with people, you know, and there was a funny story attached with one of them, and it really hit him home, because this guy that I was speaking to, he had a bit of an issue with anger. I used to have plenty of issues with anger. And when I went to meet him, I'd committed the dreadful crime of dropping a cigarette in the street and got fined for it just before I met him. And but I used that story to tell him how I would have reacted when I were using, and because basically I would have ended up in the court through kicking off and being argumentative, and I would have had to pay more. Whereas the guy who I knew I'd done wrong dropping litter, and he fined me, and he ended up thanking me because I was so understanding, which is a bit bizarre, because it's recovery. Being in recovery has changed my attitude to the world. And somebody was talking about perception earlier, about how I used to see key workers and support workers. I thought I didn't relate to them. And that's the beauty of this role, is that I can relate to people because I've been there, and I've found it. I've really enjoyed it so far. I've really enjoyed it so far. I hope that I hope that I help people. I hope that, you know, I do well at my role. I'm just doing my best and hoping for the best, really. That's about it.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
go
couldn't
on.
find the I couldn't find the unmute. Do you know what? You're lovely. I only met you the other day, and I just think you're lovely. Like you say, when you're just saying that about, isn't it weird when you just was like, "Oh, no, I've been to prison." I was like, "Whoa!" You don't imagine, like, you don't look like she's been. She don't look like she's been to prison. She looks really like normal and nice, and it's mad, isn't it? Oh, thank you so much. You've got a lot of people who love you on here as well. A lot of got Bev Webster's on here, Chris Rowlands with thumbs up. Can you say any more, Glenn? Because my screen went a bit frozen before, so I'm trying to now pick up where
We've got someone that's saying, how can I join to express my interest?
right.
Which
We've
is,
sent that. Chris Rowlands put nice love hearts and praying hands for you there, Annie. Yeah,
Thanks.
if anybody wants to join and become a member, then you join the LUF Facebook page, and then there's the link, Red Rose Recovery, that you can click on to become a member.
so, Annie. So,
It's Glenn.
when I was smiling when you said it around the fear of being judged and being accepted in that sort of environment, and it took me back to me going through my vetting, and I had many sleepless nights over it, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be judged. I'm not going to be accepted. They're going to look at my previous convictions and stuff." And obviously there's a process to go through in respect of that, because you're working in a secure environment. But the fact that you've passed it is to say that they've obviously put their head above their parapet and said, "We're going to put you in that situation and give you that opportunity." So anybody that's going through that process as we speak, because there is, like Manny said, that this has been commissioned and to be delivered in, I think it's 9 different police stations across Lancashire and Cumbria. So we've got Blackburn, Burnley, Blackpool, Lancaster, Preston, Kendal, Workington, Carlisle and Barrow. That were good, that weren't it, remembering all them 9. Anyway, but so and we've still got jobs on the website now. I think there's still Kendal and Lancaster that needs to be filled. The rest have been filled. So what I would say is, anybody that's going through that vetting process as we speak, to reach out and have discussions with people that have gone through it, been through it, because they'll be able to give you some advice and some support. Because like I did with Annie and the L&D team, I needed that support. So I think it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Annie, go on.
Chris, sorry, Bev has put, well done, Annie. Chris put, lovely, thanks for that, Annie. And he put, I can totally identify with Annie saying her thinking was that people may judge her by how she speaks. It's true. A lot of people can relate. Sorry, I wanted to get that in because it came up.
And it's funny that, because every single person that's been recruited for that role has felt that. And I think I've had the same conversation with everybody. I think Jenny said it to me. So even the image of what do you wear, how do you speak, how do you articulate stuff, because and I can only speak for myself, but what I'm feeling is that what we do is we put people in hierarchy of people, and we judge ourselves, and we think that we're not right to be in them sort of environments. And what I said to every single one of them is, be yourself. You've been employed for being yourself, to be yourself. Don't try and be something that you're not, because you've been identified for a skill set, and use that skill set. So as long as you're not going into custody suites in miniskirts and hardly anything on, then it's not an issue. So just be yourself.
That when you said that about just be yourself, I was so relieved, and I've just embraced that,
Yeah.
And I think she's lovely lady.
So thank you, Annie. Appreciate you being on. And I know how nerve-wracking it is being on these sort of platforms for the first time. So I'm taking that off to every single one of you. That's because, like we said before, Jenna and Annie, people get nerves. I still get nerves coming on these platforms. So it's good to have nerves. It shows you that you're real. So anyway, we've still got 2 more people and then Joe to sing us out. So
Where is Joe?
Good question. I don't know whether he's coming back on or not, but
Do you want me? I'll sing. I'm not bothered.
yeah, well, it's either me or you that's singing out then, Emily, I think.
Go on, Annie. Look at her. She's a good at it. She knows. I'm not really going to sing. Oh, Craig Toolman's just had to step away to make tea, folks. Thanks for having me on, and I'll keep watching the stream. It's fine. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, so if I sing, I'll let you know to put yourself up, put it on mute so you don't hear me, because I'm not joking, I'm not singing, you're having a laugh. Anyway, I will move on really quickly. We've also got David. David Jones is a practitioner in the East, so David's going to come in because it's been implemented new in the East. So I'm going to let David come in and let you know how he found it, basically. You there, David?
I am, Glenn. Can you hear me? Yeah.
We can, yeah.
Yeah. So this is my spot, is it?
That's your spot, mate.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for inviting me on it anyway, everybody. And I'm one of the practitioners in Blackburn, at work in Blackburn and Burnley. And, I think some of the stories, I think, is fantastic. And I think Craig painted a good picture as well of how it's evolved and where it's all come from, and how the peer support workers are developing within our team. Prior to doing the role that I'm doing now, my role was doing the RCM work, which is really the same as the peer support work that's going on. And what I wanted to perhaps touch on, just briefly, was perhaps some of the challenges that we have working within custody and trying to engage the support of people that come into custody. And now the peer support workers that are coming on sort of stream are going to make a massive difference to that. So some of the challenges that we have working in custody is sometimes that we only get short periods of time to assess somebody. And when we go and see somebody in perhaps a chaotic custody suite, it's really difficult to sort of sometimes, first of all, get the right timing to go and see that person. Perhaps we might be waiting for them to sober up, or they might be under their influence, or we might be struggling to get a CDO or somebody like that to take us down to the cell. And when we get there, sometimes we can have 10, 15 minutes, sometimes less, to speak to that person. So I guess what I'm saying is, in the practitioner role, sometimes, I can speak for myself, we feel very limited on what changes we can make to that person. It's about providing that link to them trying to engage with the peer support workers, our RCM workers, and then further engaging down the line. And I've often said it myself that in my previous role, when I was doing the more support work role, you could make a real difference. Sat in somebody's house, sat in somebody's living room, having a coffee at McDonald's, having that normal chat, rather than sat in a custody cell. And I think that's where the magic happens. So to me, to get in the peer support workers, I don't know if my screen's gone off now or whether it's just... Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you. Don't worry. You're still on. Don't worry.
Right, these dodgy NHS laptops keep going on and off. But yeah, the importance of having that initial contact with people and getting them to engage I see as one of the bigger challenges. Because if we can't get people to initially engage or even give consent to speak with us, we're struggling to make that first link. And I think with Jenna on board and Danny on board, being able to get that first contact, or for us to ring Jenna up or Danny up and say, look, we've got somebody in here now, or do you want to come in? Do you want to meet up with them whilst they're there? Making that first contact, it increases the chances of them engaging down the line massively, I think. So to me, it's really important, this peer support role that's coming on. It's probably the most important bit of the service, I would say, because as I say, it's where the magic happens. It's where you can make the difference. So hopefully Jenna and Danny will soon be up and running and have the caseloads, and we'll see a lot more of you in custody in here. And sometimes we're against the clock. People might be aware of the pace clock in custody, and sometimes they wanted to get people out. Sometimes people in custody are in crisis for whatever reason. And then the thought process might be, I want to get out, I want to make amends for what I've done, or I want to explain, or I want to get out to use again, or to whatever it may be. So having the peer support workers and having that link with the practitioners in custody is absolutely vital. I remember when I first came into this job, and it were almost like you had sort of band 6 mental health practitioners, and you'd see people and assess them, and they do a great job, but then they'd end up giving them a leaflet and say, contact this service or contact that service. And, it makes you wonder how many of them leaflets get dumped just outside the door. A lot of people don't have the confidence to contact services. Loads of different reasons. I met a guy that wouldn't go and register with his GP because he might have to fill forms in, and he couldn't read and write. So there's lots of different reasons. So I'm dead excited about. I've had some good chats with Jenna. I met Danny just once, I think. I'm to Danny, but I think it's fantastic, and I think the more we get embedded into the service. It's been going a lot longer in Preston. It started in Preston first, and it's feeding back down here. But for me, it's going to be great. I think the COVID in the last, the year, 18 months or whatever it is now, has put some real challenges on our service as well, on not being able to have the face-to-face contacts, not being able to make the same appointments, workers and things having to isolate. So, hopefully that's going to start getting back to some normality, and we can get back up and running to where we were before, and a lot further forward. So I don't want to go on and on and on about it, but I'm just saying, for me, it's a real plus, and the peer support work role is no less important to, I would say, to our band 7, band 8, or whatever it is within this service. Absolutely, there's no difference. In fact, I hope they're not listening, but it's probably a lot more important, because they're doing the business on the, on the coal face, out there with people, making real life connections. So bring it on. That's what I say. Bring it on, develop it, and let's go with it. And I think there is some apprehensions. Craig touched on it. He touched on about his own apprehensions about people coming in to the service that haven't had experience within the NHS, or they haven't got the qualifications, or there's this question mark, will they be professional enough, and all that sort of stuff. I think once people are in and working, that myth will just go, and they'll see the real difference on what it can make. If we look at NHS England and the NHS that funds our service, the priorities are, or the main issues are, to reduce reoffending, support the well-being of people in the community, the health and well-being of the people in the community, and regarding the courts, get more appropriate sentencing. So if somebody needs a more of a community sentence rather than a remand sentence, if that's appropriate, let's help that happen. So we can only do that if we're working with people on the ground, and going back to what I was saying initially about the challenges, I think some of the challenges that I've noticed from doing other jobs within the service and then now doing this job within custody. So people are referred to us in custody via the custody sergeants. We may see them on the police screens in custody or the courts, and we go and see them and assess them. but we can only do so much at that point. You know, we can do the risks, we can do the assessing, and we can do as much as we can, but referring them on and crucially getting the rapport of that person when you first meet somebody in that cell. I think Glenn touched on some of it and other people have touched on it. They see what they perceive is a professional or somebody coming in with a lanyard on because they're at work. By the way, I'm at work at the minute, so I'm not sat at home in this. I'm not weird. But I just think it's really important, the way it's going and the way we're structuring the service now. And right from the bottom, NHS England have made that decision that we don't want people having to apply all with degrees and things like that. Let people start from wherever they want to start or feel they can start and progress through the system. I started as a support worker at Calderstones many years ago. Knew very little about mental health or learning disabilities or anything like that. And slowly just, number one, really enjoyed my work. Worked a lot of third sector services within sort of carer support, mental health, family support and that type of thing. And I think when you come from where places like Jen has been speaking about and Danny and all the other peer support workers, we're coming from that real place of knowing what it's like down there. I can't say I know that because I don't, because I haven't been there, you know, but they're coming from that real place where they can build that rapport with and connections with people and hopefully make the magic happen and get them to places where other people are getting to now. You know, I think it's fantastic. I'm probably wittering on now. So I'm going to let Glenn tell me to shut up in a minute. But if there's any questions or anything like that, just, yeah, I'm happy to have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
No, I'm not sorry, actually. I'm not sorry at all. Joanne Johnson, she put, just to echo what David said, every role in the team is important. Lived experience is probably more important than a qualification when engaging working with individuals in crisis who need someone they can relate to. Deb Taylor, hi everyone, fantastic to see you all. I am so proud of you. You are going to make a massive difference to our service. Katie Mason's on. Oh, my niece is on, Emma Louise Niven. Hello, sweetheart. Stuart, hi everyone. I've been watching on my phone till now. Computer reception is here until now. Hello, Stuart. So yeah, David, that, yeah, like I said, when I used to get locked up, I wish there'd been people like yourselves and support there. There was nothing. It was just kick you out in your dodgy paper suit and off you went, you know. Yeah. Nothing, no support, nothing, you know, and that was it. You were just a nuisance to society, really, and there was no support there. It was just, I mean, I think it was probation. My probation gave me a alcohol and drug recovery program. I think that was the first time I sort of came across it was the ADS then in Burnley, Alcohol Dependency Service. But until then, there was nothing, you know. So every time I kept reoffending, there was no support, you know. And I think this is amazing. I really do, what everyone's doing. And I think, like you say, having that experience of truly understanding what people are going through. And the last thing you want to do is speak to them when you've had a lot of drink and drugs, but you know, in the morning when you've come round and you just feel like that, like rock bottom, it's nice to know that there is people there that can help you. Yeah, and stopping the reoffending. You talked about people coming in, you know, again and again into custody, you know, into the criminal justice system. It's about how do we stop that repeat offending. Exactly. You know, and sometimes people, the more they offend, the more they get into it, the more they become, that's who I am and that's what I do. And I used to like moaning about the crap coffee, the cups, the polystyrene cups. I'd be like, and your cups are shit, and your polystyrene, you know, like I was gonna have some, like I was asking for some like major coffee making, like a Costa or something next time. You know, that'd have been all right. But it's like, Katie Mason's just put, last time I got locked up is when I got referred to the services, and I couldn't be more thankful. So that's what I mean, you know, people these days. And Chris Rowland's very interesting. Thanks, David, and thank God got people like you Adele Griffiths, this is her first time watching. Hello, Adele, and it's lovely. And like I say, this is what happens when we share this. People then connect and people can get that support. So yeah, it is. It's really interesting. Sorry, Glenn, do you want to say something?
No, sorry, I'm just telling the kids to shut up because they're screaming house down. So I apologise about that. So you see, I'm authentic as well. It does happen in my house as well. So,
well, I think I asked Daddy where his wife and kids were. I thought he'd hid them somewhere, but they're actually downstairs. So we're all right. I was a bit worried. I was like, "What's he done with them?"
No, thank you, David. And when I was listening to you, then what I took from it is that it took me back to my offending years and years ago, around when someone used to give you a leaflet, and I used to use it as roach. Now, for people that don't know what a roach is, it's what you put in a fag at the end to make it a bit so you can smoke it, and it was useful for that at the time. But that was my thing. Now, the fact that you've got a service there now to catch you when you're coming out there. Now, it might not be the case that you get it first time and you engage, and you might come through that circle many times, but at least the service is there to catch you and say, there is something different. There is something tangible. You can change your life. And with the L&D and the Red Rolls and the peer elements of that, is that transition then goes into the community. And you've got your likes of your Jenners, your Annies, your Daniels, everyone, myself, to be able to support you. And while that referral is going through to other services, whatever's been identified, we can be that emotional support and support you on that pathway, attending them meetings and stuff like that. And Joe and Debs, I know that you're on the stream, so hello, been a massive support. So Joe's a service manager at L&D, and you've got Debs, which is a band 6 practitioner. They're just, and also to the rest of the L&D team, because what I will say from actually implementing this with them is that Red Rose wouldn't have been able to do that without them, and they've been the support in recruitment, the support when we've come up against obstacles, barriers. It's them that's been fighting our corner in respect to getting it up and running. So thank you again. Thank you, David. Has anyone got any questions before we move on?
No, there's just people on. Jackie Granner is the first time listening. Hello, Jackie. Just saying that people, we're just making a difference and raising awareness, and that's what a lot of people are sort of highlighting on here. Oh, hold on, we've got Adele. Are you just based in Lancashire?
No. So Red Rose is Lancashire based, but obviously the peer support elements of it is Lancashire and Cumbria. So as I said, we've ventured out into Cumbria now, where we're working in Workington, Kendal, Carlisle, Barrow, and obviously all the custody suites in Lancashire, Lancaster, Burnley, Blackburn, Blackpool and Preston. Red Rose as the wider service is Lancashire based, so there's other stuff that's going on. If you do want to see what's going on is in Red Rose Recovery, it's www.redroserecovery.org.uk. There's loads of stuff that you can get involved in. You can get involved with a Lancashire User Forum, peer support groups, mental health groups, employment leadership programs. There's loads of things that you can get involved with. This element of the service is around the custody suites and the courts. So, but what I've found is that this service is that when we catch people in custody, depending on what complex the vulnerability of that individual needs, they might get signposted into the wider Red Rose or other services. It's not about Red Rose Recovery, it's about whatever that individual needs, and the peer support workers and myself will try and support that individual, whatever that is. So unless we've got any other questions, we'll move on to our final agenda item, which is Danny. So do you want to come in, Danny?
Yep, thanks everybody. My name's Danny. I'm from Burnley, and I've just recently been employed as the peer support worker in Burnley and Blackburn. I just want to tell you, it's like a mini life story, if you will, about my background and how I came to be. I'm currently in recovery myself. I was quite quiet and shy as a kid. But I sort of overcompensated by that by getting in a lot of trouble. Things like criminal damage and shoplifting. And I was quite a promising student, really, but I was always drawn to getting in trouble like a moth to the flame. And that criminal damage developed into things like fighting and particularly assaults. And this was tied in with drinking. And I used alcohol to kind of for confidence and to bring me out of my shell, really. So much so that by the time I'd left school, a year after leaving school, I was in a young offenders institute. And my story reads like a bit of an horror story, really, because there's a lot of violence and there's a lot of crime, but it's my reality. So I just want to share it with you. Yeah, we're in a young offenders institute by the time I was 17 for violence. And when I got out of there, I carried on with drink, drugs, partying, and I did have some good times during that time. It weren't all bad, but I knew I'd developed a drink problem. I knew I needed to do something about that. So I attempted to do that by joining the army. I joined the army when I was 19, did my basic training, infantry training, and unfortunately my weekend leave started getting longer and longer due to my drinking. I was arrested, and after a couple of years I was sent to military prison and discharged from the army. This is just another example of ambitions and jobs and things that have been affected by my drinking. Around that period in my early 20s, my offending became really prolific, and I was that's synonymous with being up and down in like paper suits because police had took my clothes for forensics, and this was all violent crime related to drinking. It was everything from like violent disorder to GBH, ABH, and knife crime. This was all related to me drinking, but that's not to justify it. You know, that's just to say that there were other contributing factors behind why I was committing this crime. During my 20s, I don't look back on them with any fondness. They were just wasted years, and I became quite withdrawn. All my mates had started settling down and that, and I was just drinking. I'd stay at home, I'd close curtains, close the blinds, and I was very, very isolated. And I know now I was struggling with quite serious anxiety and depression, but I was just internalizing everything, and I didn't know how to speak up. I thought it would make me look soft, vulnerable. So I was dealing with all that just on my own, really. And I was just internalizing everything, and frustration gave way to anger. And then in 2008, after an incident, I decided to arm myself, and I attacked 3 people. I was sent to prison on 3 wounding charges, and this was a very serious offence. And it was during that time that I can remember being sat in my cell and thinking, what have I become? Yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm going to end up killing somebody. I'm surprised I ain't killed somebody already. I'm surprised I'm not dead myself with the amount of injuries I've sustained. You know, in the past I'd been found unconscious in the early hours with a wound to the back of the head. Luckily, a taxi driver took me to hospital, but in my mentality around that time, I'd booked myself straight back out and went boozing again. So that tells you the extent of my drinking. I was dealing with quite serious mental health there. So during that sentence, I started reevaluating my life, really. And when I got out from that sentence, that's when I met my partner, who I'm currently with now, and this is over 10 years ago, 11 years. I started settling down, working. I've now got 2 beautiful children. And that's when the change really shifted, and I weren't just thinking about myself. Then I had 2 children who were relying on me, and I didn't want to be a poor father and that lot. And then I ended up going to my GP, and for the first time, 34 years old, first time I'd ever spoke to anybody about mental health issues, and they were supportive in that. And then I decided, with the encouragement of my partner, that I'd get some help about my drinking, because I was still drinking at this point. And when I'd have a drink, I'd start returning to my old behaviours, going out for days on end, drink driving. I'd be waking up not knowing where my car was. And it just wasn't compatible with being the father that I wanted to be, and be, you know, I wanted to be a better person. I've tried everything for years to stop drinking and that lot, but nothing seemed to work on my own. So I needed some support. I knew I needed some help. I went to Inspire, started doing reduction and moderation groups, and then I ended up going into rehab for 3 months in Burnley. And yeah, so that's where the story gets a bit more positive now. That was 4.5 years ago, so I'm 4.5 years sober now. And during that time, my life's changed considerably. First of all, when I left rehab, I started looking for different type of jobs instead of doing like the macho type jobs, like I said, the army, groundwork, stuff like that. I got myself an office job working in primary care. And then my ambition started returning as I got more sober, and I started thinking about re-educating myself. 3 years ago, I went to university, and I achieved a foundation degree in alcohol and substance misuse work. And just recently, I've just received a first in a BA honours degree in health and applied social studies. And that is just a world away from the violent criminal who was really struggling with mental health problems of the past. But all the time whilst I was studying, I was thinking, when I apply for jobs, I'm going to have to pull this DBS out, by the way. And then, do you know what I mean? I thought that was going to be a massive barrier to getting any jobs in the future. So you can imagine my surprise when I seen the advertisement for peer support worker in Burnley. Red Rose Recovery wanted somebody with a history of offending, involvement with the criminal justice system, involvement with drink, drugs, mental health, and I had all those things in abundance. So I went for the job. I thought it's screaming out for me there. I want to do something rewarding, and yeah, I got the job, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. And everything's been great so far. It's been a bit strange going into the police station and courts in a positive manner, because I'm not used to that. I'm used to obviously being convicted and in the cells. But yeah, it's going to give me a massive opportunity to reach out and help people who, and when I think about those dark days in my 20s, if somebody had come in with sort of lived experience like that, I think it would have made a bit of impact if I'd have seen somebody and thought, bloody hell, how's he done that? Do you know what I mean? I can do it. It'd give me inspiration. And that's, I'm very hopeful that it's something that's going to be really successful. And yeah, I'm going to give it my all. And yeah, I'm enjoying the role. And that's about it, really. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah. Well
That's
done
all
on
you've
all
got to
them.
say.
Yeah, all those degree. What is it? I don't see. I'm that numb. I don't even know what it is. What is it you got?
Yeah, I've got a foundation degree in alcohol and substance misuse work, and I've got a BA Hons in health and applied social studies. But so you could say I did all the practical, and then I followed it up with all the academic.
Well done. Do you know what? That's madness. That's madness. Bev Webster's put well done, Danny. Another brave share. Chris Rowland said he can relate to you as well. Stuart Watson, another amazing, inspiring story from Danny. Adele Griffiths, well done, Danny. Oh, wow, honestly.
Can I just come in as well? I'm going to come to... Have you got your hand up, Jenna?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, do you know what, Danny? Well done on your first. Jesus, that's some achievement there in itself. Do you know what? Obviously, we kind of know each other from around Burnley anyway. Do you know? And I think in what the 4.5 years that you've been clean, look at how much you've achieved. You know, and you get. I've never don't really know your full background, you know, and it's kind of, you know, it's inspiring to listen to that and to know like what you've gone through as well, and you know your own kind of background, and to see you sat here today and achieving firsts in your degree. Do you know what I mean? It gives, it's inspiring and it gives people hope. And if that can't give people hope, then I don't know what will. But yeah, well done,
Thanks,
Danny.
Jenna.
I love that.
Thanks, Jenna. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Emma Ormrod, is that your lady? She's put, we're very proud of you, Danny, or is that just somebody else?
Yeah, that's my partner. Yeah.
Oh, hello, partner. Hello. He's smashing it. So she's obviously what? Oh, that's lovely.
So cute.
That you know what, and it just shows if you've got a strong woman behind, you know what I mean, to push it and to believe in you, and to that's what makes it even more amazing, isn't it? You know what I mean? That somebody loves you and wants you to achieve and wants you to get it right, and you know you've got those 2 children that you've just said that are important to you, and that's
yeah, I'm very lucky to have all that support, and obviously my children are a massive. I know they say you've got to do it for yourself, but in doing it for yourself, it brings positives for everybody around you. So my children and my partner are a massive driving force behind what I'm doing.
Oh, well done, Emma. She's put hello everyone, and hello Emma, sweetheart. It's lovely to see you. Daniel, little child, well done. Danny Grace, Jackie, Granite, well done. Dan Little Child, he's put lost 1, Danny, and gained 1. That's true. That's true.
Well done, Danny. Well done. And you want to be proud of yourself. I know, Annie, I'm going to come into you in a minute because I know you've got your hand up. I just wanted to touch on that experience around being in custody, because I had that experience where when I went in there and I was like, one of the practitioners said, no, you're meant to be behind desk. And I'm like, really? I said, am I not at front of the desk getting my belongings and stuff like that? And it was really, really surreal. So I understand how you feel. But the fact that, and this is the thing in it, it's around nobody, well, I'm saying this, nobody wants to come have them issues or come through the criminal justice system, end up in prison or have mental health problems. Nobody aspired to have them issues. Well, I certainly didn't. I just found myself in that situation where I couldn't get out of it. And the fact that you've come from where you've come from, and the fact that you've managed to achieve what you've achieved just says a lot about a person for me, in the respect of the resilience, skill set. And I know I can only speak from my experience, but yeah, would I rather not have experienced what I've experienced? Definitely. But I also believe the fact that it's made me who I am today, and I use my experience to support others and also myself in that. So well done, mate. Anna, do you want to come in?
Yes, I do, Glenn. Danny, thank you. I really enjoyed listening to that, and you know that sounds mad because you went through a lot of hardship, trauma, but it's amazing. I'm so glad that you didn't die when you collapsed, you know. And like, I'm sort of echoing what Glenn said, because we can use these experiences to help others, you know. When Jenna was talking about trying to take a life and you nearly die and nearly killing some other people, it's like we can make that into something good to help others. And you know, anybody that's going through similar things out there, take this hope, believe that you could do it as well. That's all I want to say. And thanks, Danny. Really great.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Yeah, and all those like negative experiences that I had, I always thought that were just wasted, but it's not, because I'm going to draw on all those experiences and use them to help other people within this role.
Good motivators then, Danny. Great motivators. And it's quite unreal at the fact that, so Red Rose have got values, and we've got about and love, is that, and tonight's theme is transformation, and the fact that every single person that's on this platform has transformed where they've been at. So Danny, Annie, Emily, Jenna, myself, everybody has transformed in some way. So well done. That brings us to a close, and I don't want to keep anybody any longer, because I am aware that football's on tonight and it's a massive night, and loads of people. And I just want to touch on the fact that because obviously I can see the views in that, and the fact that football's been going on at 5 o'clock and at 8 o'clock, and the numbers have been really, really high. So that just is testament to you guys and what you've shared on this platform tonight. And like I said, I couldn't do it without you guys. Let me tell you. And I just feel privileged to be a part of every single one of your journeys. And that's not only the people with experience, that's being a part of the L&D, the practitioners, obviously Mark, obviously what you're doing in Blackpool. I just think it's great the fact that different services and different people and different experiences, we can all come together and use it to support each other and the community. So unless anybody's got anything else to add in that, I just want to say thank you again. These LUF Lounges are on every single week. Different teams in the different areas will be providing that. So it'll be on next week, and we will be on again. I can't remember when it is, but probably in about 6 to 12 weeks. So we will have a star-studded cast for you again. So we'll leave it there. And thank you, Emily, for being a great co-host as usual.
I know.
And we'll leave it there.
Glenn, though, people wanted you to sing. Is that not going to happen? No, have we not got enough time?
No, I'm not that comfortable yet. Maybe in another 3 years. I've still got a lot of work to do on myself to get to that point.
Oh no, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good evening and a good
Thanks,
weekend.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
David.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Mark.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.